Hello and welcome back to the channel once again. My name is Andy and today we are back looking over today's Azerbaijan Grand Prix from this afternoon. A very eventful race, shall we say, from today's race. And we're going to be looking back over the weekend and the race itself in just a moment. But as always, before I start, I always like to say thank you very much for watching and listening. If you do enjoy what you are listening to and what you do watch from any other videos on the channel, do hit that subscribe button. And remember to hit the bell icon as well so you don't miss out on any content from myself. If you do enjoy this video as well, do also hit the like button too. And of course comment below. I'd like to hear what was your favourite part of today's race. What did you think about one of the many incidents from today's race on the streets of Baku? We're going to start off obviously with a quick recap over practice and qualifying, and practice one was not a good time for Max Verstappen. It's been a tricky start to the year for the young Dutchman. He's further down the championship order than his teammate. He's had a few questionable moves so far, China being the most obvious one against Sebastian Vettel. And in FP1, he binned it, I think is the easiest thing to say, coming through the twisty parts. I think it was coming into turn 5, I think it was. The car just got loose, he corrected it, and it just away it went and into the barrier. That ruined practice one for him, but it brings up more questions around him. Everyone's always seen him as being the next big thing, but he seems to be struggling at the moment, and it's not the only time during the weekend, as we'll come to, that he was in the news, so to speak. But again, that is for later on. He did come back in FP2 and set a decent time as well, and it wasn't until the race that issues came around it again. Into qualifying itself though, and it was yet another pole position for the championship leader Sebastian Vettel. He took P1 with Hamilton and Bottas taking P2 and P3. Raikkonen only able to get P6 in the second Ferrari, and he hampered himself with messing up Q2 run as well, meaning he had to go on the ultra soft tyres rather than the ideal super softs, which are the better race tyre. So he put his strategy out pretty quickly with that. The Red Bulls were in 4th and 5th with Ricciardo ahead of Verstappen. But the main talking point from qualifying was during Q1 with a very scary moment indeed between the two Toro Rosso drivers. Brendan Hartley had a bit of an issue coming towards the end of the lap, was instructed to slow down by the team, and coming up at a vast rate of knots behind was his teammate Pierre Gasly. And Hartley moved to try and avoid Gasly, and unfortunately kind of moved on to the racing line for the next corner, and Gasly just avoided him at the last second. The speed difference was phenomenal, and if Gasly had hit there, that would have been an aeroplane accident of epic proportions, I think, but thankfully managed to avoid it. But both Toro Rossos would go out in Q1. And the other part from qualifying was that Nico Hülkenberg had to take a gearbox penalty, meaning he would lose a couple of places on the grid from his starting spot. But we move on to the race itself, and for once, going into turn 1, everyone behaved themselves going into turn 1, which, considering it's quite wide into turn 1 and then quite narrow, is quite surprising. But turn 2, it all kicked off. It started with the Williams of Sergei Sirotkin getting into the back of Sergio Perez's Force India, a move which is going to incur Sirotkin a 3-place grid penalty for the next round in Spain, Barcelona. But it wasn't over for the Russian rookie driver there, because coming down the straight out of turn 2, he was sandwiched between the Renault of Nico Hülkenberg and the McLaren of Fernando Alonso, and Hülkenberg clipped the Williams, which then pushed the Williams into the McLaren. Instant damage to the suspension for the Williams. He was out the race, and Alonso ended up with 2 punctures on the right hand side, dropping him down the field. But that wasn't it either, because into turn 3, Kimi Raikkonen tried to put a move down the inside of the quick starting Force India's Esteban Ocon. Ferrari driver did get alongside the Force India, but not fully alongside, and contact happened into turn 3. It was a damaged front wing for the Ferrari driver, but the Force India was into the wall and out of the race. And an interesting stat from Ocon is that his last 4 retirements, which go back to his Formula 3 days back in 2014, have all come on the first lap. Azerbaijan this year, Brazil last year, the Macau Grand Prix in 2014 in Formula 3, and the F3 European race at the Nürburgring the same year. So when he retires pretty quickly. The rest of the time he usually finishes. But it was not the start to the race that the Frenchman would have wanted at all. All of this, though, did bring the safety car out quite straight away. It was expected to show up at some point during the race, so it came out very early indeed, obviously. And Raikkonen pitted, Perez pitted for repairs as well. They both went onto the soft yellow banded tyres. Kimi changing his front wing as well. Others pitted too, along like Alonso. Ericsson was in the pits as well too, a number of others as well. Now at the restart, Vettel backed them right up, not taking the jump until the safety car line itself down the straight. He didn't want anyone getting a slipstream drag on him down into turn 1 at all. And he was able to hold on to first place going on, which was from Hamilton in second, Bottas was third. And at that point, for a period of time, it was then the Red Bulls and the Renaults. They were having a decent battle as well. Sainz got past Verstappen. He was then up into 4th place for a period of time. We then had Hülkenberg get past both of the Red Bulls as well. But then Nico got wide coming out of turn 4, slapped the wall with the rear off the car, rear left corner, and that was him out of the race. Sainz was able to move ahead for a bit, but being on the ultra softs, he started to struggle as time went on and came back into the clutches of the 2 Red Bulls before he pitted. But one of the main stories from the race is, of course, the Red Bulls themselves. Daniel Ricciardo, winner last time out in China, and of the aforementioned Max Verstappen as well. And these two were pretty much within about a second or two of each other all race long. Multiple attempts at passing, repassing. Ricciardo tried to go around the outside into turn 1 a couple of times. He even touched wheels at one point, which was a little bit borderline considering it's teammates racing. That could have been a pretty big accident. Thankfully at that time it wasn't, but we all know what happened later on, which we'll come to. They survived for the meantime though, and they continued just to follow each other around, and they went for a long stint. Someone that had to do a shorter first stint though was Lewis Hamilton in 2nd place. Now he came into turn 1 and he locked up and he flat spotted both the tyres and made for quite a bit of vibration, and he had to pit early, and he put on the yellow banded soft tyres at that time. Vettel stayed out until lap 30 before he done the same thing. This handed the lead to Valtteri Bottas, and he stayed out and was still setting personal bests on tyres that were nearly 40 laps old by the time he pitted, which came due to another safety car. That other safety car was caused by the Red Bull, so we've seen more incidents from Max and Daniel. Daniel did get past the Dutchman, and then a couple of laps later made his pit stop, but because of the low track temperatures, and it was very windy during the race today in Baku, it was a struggle for the drivers to get the tyres up to temperature, and instead of getting the undercut, Max, being the one who pitted second and being behind, actually got the overcut instead. He actually came out his pit stop 2 laps later ahead of Daniel, regaining that place, so the battle resumed again. And there was more ding-dong battles, and some of it was really good, some of it was really close as well. But then, what looked like to me the inevitable happened. Verstappen came down the main straight. He was weaving across, trying to break the slipstream and ensure Daniel didn't get a tow. But Ricciardo had DRS, he had the boost turned up, hitting the overtake button, all the battery power, everything you could get for it. Verstappen defended, went to the left. This is my opinion of what I've seen from the replays. And Daniel looked like he was going to done the dummy almost to go to the right and then went for the left. Max defended slightly towards the right, so a gap opened up between the wall and Verstappen for the inside line. But then Verstappen comes back across and defends, and by that point he's took the air away from the front wing of Ricciardo. That stops the braking efficiency. Ricciardo hits the brakes, locks up. Next thing you know, bang, the two of them have hit each other, rear-ended, and both of them out the race into turn one. And because of the two stranded cars, the safety car came back out for the second time. This really benefited Bottas. He was able to put on the ultra softs, because there was only about 14-15 laps or so to go by this point, and get out ahead of Vettel, even though Vettel was already pitted. And that was just purely again because of the safety car. It was almost a repeat of what happened in Australia between Hamilton and Vettel, where Vettel got out ahead due to the safety car. This time though, flipped around to benefit Mercedes. During the pit stop process, so everybody pretty much came in and pitted. Vettel went on to the ultra soft, so did Raikkonen and Hamilton. So we basically had a shootout where everybody had the ultra soft tyres on, all the same length of time they'd had it on, and it was going to be a very interesting end to the race. During this time as well, Perez even pitted as well, and he also took a 5-second penalty during the pit stop. This is a penalty he received for passing before the safety car line at the end of the first safety car, so he ended up taking that penalty during the pit stop, which he is legally entitled to do. And then just before the restart, unbelievably, Romain Grosjean and the Haas, who had started dead last due to problems in qualifying, took a gearbox change as well, was in 6th at the time, warming the tyres up, and he crashed into the wall. He came on the radio, he said, "I think Ericsson hit me." Ericsson was nowhere near you, Grosjean. You could have fitted a London bus between the two of you, there was that much of a gap. It looks like basically what's happened is he's just been warming the tyres up, and because of the cold temperatures, the cars just got away, put him into the wall. So he wasn't too happy at all, but that meant the safety car stayed out much longer than it would have done, and meant we got a 4-lap shootout between the top four. So we had Bottas, Vettel, Hamilton, Raikkonen, top four, all in the same tyres, nose to tail, with 4 laps to go. It was, I literally just sat up at this point. It was like, this is going to be fun, get the popcorn out. Mind you, popcorn would have been good in watching the Red Bulls team briefing, but there you go. But the last 4 laps then, we had the restart. Bottas went early, didn't do what Vettel did in backing them up. He actually went early, and it became a slipstream battle almost down to turn 1, and Vettel went for it. He went for the pass, and he misjudged his braking, locked up, which meant he then had a flat spot on his tyre as well, and he lost 2nd place to Hamilton, and he lost 3rd place to Raikkonen as well. That put him down in 4th. The flat spot meant he ended up losing 5th place also. 4th place to Perez, who was behind in 5th. And then that meant that Mercedes looked like they were going to take a 1-2 from the race. But then coming down the pit straight in the very next lap, 2 laps to go, Bottas runs over some debris and gets a flat right rear tyre. And I'll give him one thing, he done well to control that at 300 kilometres an hour over 200 miles an hour nearly. That could have been a big crash itself, but that put him out the race. Promoted Hamilton at first, Raikkonen at second. Perez was now 3rd, and he said the last 2 laps were the hardest laps he's driven, trying to make sure Vettel couldn't catch up. Vettel couldn't though, and Perez did take that final podium spot, but Hamilton took what was quite a fortunate win in the end, but he now leads the Drivers' Championship by 4 points after today's race, which coming into the race you wouldn't have thought of. It's quite a timely victory for Mercedes as well, but I do think that they're still lagging behind at this point to the Ferraris. as well. But Hamilton now leads the championship from Vettel. Raikkonen is on 48 points. He's nearly 20 points behind his teammate, despite finishing in second today. And in the constructors, it's Ferrari leading from 4 points from Mercedes, with Red Bull back on 55. So it's already a two-horse race there for that one. But even with the race finished, the drama wasn't quite over. Perez, Stroll, and Magnussen were called to speak to the stewards, and this was over improper use of the DRS. Now, during the race, the detection point had failed, so it meant that they couldn't, advise the drivers of when they were within DRS range. You usually get a wee beep in their ears to say that you can use the DRS. So the teams were having to advise them manually, and that meant that what came up is that Perez was called to the stewards over 2 allegedly illegal uses of DRS, as well as Stroll and Magnussen. But it looks like nothing's going to come from this at this point in time of recording anyway. But due to the manual use, it's either been that they've used it when they've not been able to, or it's been used too soon before the line where you can use the DRS. So it looks like they're going to keep a hold of that podium, which is great for the team. They've had a rough start to the year Force India, so they'll be happy with that. And Perez becomes the first driver to podium for the second time in Baku in the 3 years. So he's the first driver that's made 2 podiums in Azerbaijan since the first race a couple of years ago. So that's quite a nifty little accolade for the Mexican driver. But we'll run through the order from top to bottom, because in the top 10, the 8 teams that finished all got, the 8 out of 10 teams scored points. The only team that didn't score points was obviously Red Bull and Haas. They were the only teams that didn't score points. Red Bull obviously had 2 retirements. Grosjean retired, Magnussen was 13th. So every other team scored at least 1 point. So we know the top 3, Hamilton, Raikkonen and Perez. Vettel took 4th. Carlos Sainz took a fantastic 5th place for Renault. And then in 6th place, driver of the day, not just in terms of the fan vote for me as well, Charles Leclerc in the Sauber. Very mature race from the young Monaco driver. He's been hard on himself over his performances in the first couple of races. So he's shown great maturity during this race, I'd say. Made a couple of good passes, kept it, between the lines, no issues at all. He took 6th place, which is a brilliant result. And I did say in the season preview, that he, I believe, will be a Ferrari driver in a couple of years' time. He is on their young driver books. He's a great driver, so it's going to be good to see how he then builds on that. 7th place was Alonso in the McLaren, recovering back from that first lap incident. 8th was Lance Stroll, which was the first points that Williams have taken this season, but they're still bottom of the championship because of Leclerc's 6th place finish. 9th was the other McLaren of Van Dorn. He had quite a quiet race, didn't see too much of him. And Brendan Hartley rounded out the top 10 for Toro Rosso. Again, more due to the attrition and all the ongoings of the race rather than anything else. 11th place was Ericsson in the second Sauber. 12th was Gasly in the other Toro Rosso. 13th was Magnussen. 14th classified was Bottas, but he retired due to that rear puncture 2 laps before the end. Grosjean was out through an accident, but he did have a good race. Ricciardo and Verstappen, we've obviously discussed. They crashed into each other. Hulkenberg crashed as well. Sorokin due to the crash damage from lap 1, and Ocon with that crash due to the collision with Raikkonen on lap 1. It made for a very, very interesting race indeed today in Azerbaijan. But Hamilton is now back on top of the Drivers' Championship, but albeit maybe not deservedly. It wasn't the greatest of races for the 4-time champion, so we'll be interested to see how Mercedes pick up next time around. Now, next time is 2 weeks' time for the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona, and this has been the first European races where we normally see quite a lot of updates from the team. McLaren have basically said you'll see their proper 2018 car in Barcelona. So it will be interesting to see if Mercedes can make any time back from the Ferrari cars so far that they seem to have lost out on. But that is 2 weeks from now. But that is going to be it from today. Once again, crazy race it had been. Do leave your comments below of what you liked and enjoyed from it. If you have enjoyed it, once again, do hit the like button and comment below. Do hit subscribe also to catch any of my other race reviews. We've also got classic content on the channel as well as some gaming commentary as well. So do look out for all of that too. And also you can follow me on Twitter. Details are up on the screen. It's the same username, Andy81287, to follow me on Twitter. But that is going to be it for today. And until next time and the next video, I'll see you again soon. Ta-ra.